Secretary Albright played an ongoing role at the Atlantic Council, speaking and leading task forces on everything from the future of Europe and Afghanistan to major work on the Middle East, chaired together with Steve Hadley. They were our bipartisan group. The Democrat Madeline Albright, the Republican Steve Hadley, very often not agreeing with each other, but knowing that all good in America happens in the center, happens among radical centrists. It was while traveling through the Middle East with her, meeting with heads of state at every stop, sitting very often in traffic jams where you talk to each other for long periods of time, that I was lucky enough to witness up close her tireless commitment to positive change and her remarkable impact on both the very powerful and the merely aspirational. At almost every stop, and by popular demand, she would meet with young women in these countries, often at the end of the arduous day. We have many friends here from the Middle East, so you know very often when you have the security details leading your driving through town in a place like Riyadh, sometimes it doesn't actually get you faster to where you're trying to get. So we talked for a long period of time. When I asked her how she could keep such a schedule, meeting with these young women in all the places we were going so late in the day, because frankly I was pooped, she answered me, quote, and this is Madeline's words, "How could I say no to them? You never know whose life you might influence that day." President Clinton chose her as our first female Secretary of State. Turn your screens and listen to what the other two female Secretaries of State have to say about Madeline.
I am so delighted to extend my greetings to everyone gathered for the Atlantic Council's Distinguished Leadership Awards, celebrating the life and legacy of my dear friend and mentor, Secretary Madeleine Albright. As Ambassador to the United Nations, Secretary of State, professor, mom, grandmother, mentor, Madeline counseled and cajoled, inspired, and uplifted so many of us. She could cut right to the heart of any issue with clarity and courage, and she was always in a hurry to do good. A dozen times a day, she would ask her team, "What's next?" turning her boundless energy and intellect to yet another crucial global challenge. During what would be our last phone call 2 weeks before she died, she talked about the importance of rallying the world against Putin's invasion of Ukraine and the urgent work of defending democracy at home and everywhere else. If Madeline were here today, I think she'd tell us that we too must be in a hurry to do good, to stand up to dictators and demagogues, from the battlefields of Ukraine to the halls of our very own capital. To stand up for women's rights and the autonomy to determine our own lives, and to live up to the ideals of the country she loved and served. Thank you all so much for giving me a chance to add my words of praise and honor on behalf of dear Madeline.
Thank you for allowing me to join you at the Atlantic Council in honoring our friend and our colleague, Madeleine Albright. Madeline was a force. Madeline was an original. I first knew of Madeline before I even met her because her father, Joseph Corbell, who had rescued this failing piano major and taught her about the world of things international and diplomacy, said to me one day, "I have a daughter that I'd love you to meet. She's studying with Zbig Brzezinski. You would like her," he said. And oh, how right he was. Madeline and I would become great friends, even though, as she once told this story in that wicked sense of humor that she had, we did find ourselves on different ends of the political spectrum. Madeline called me one day and she said, "I'm trying to get some people together to advise the Dukakis campaign. And you're a great young Soviet specialist. Would you be willing to join us? I said, Madeline, I don't think that's possible. She said, why? I said, Madeline, I'm a Republican. And she shrieked and she said, how could that be? We had the same intellectual father. That was Madeline. But in fact, she didn't care where you stood on the political spectrum, as long as you, like she did, valued freedom, valued democracy, valued equality, and valued the chance for each and every human being to enjoy the blessings of liberty. All of us, all of the organizations, all of the people that she touched, all of the lives that she changed, will always have her memory at our heart. We'll always be able to say that we knew this force, Madeline Albright. She lived a consequential life. She lived a life that mattered. She lived a life that we can all admire and be so happy that we got to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you for Secretary Clinton, for Secretary Rice, in honoring Secretary Albright. That's a really meaningful moment, I think, for a lot of us.